Hey guys, it's Mars. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing these two books, which I'm very, very excited about because, well, you'll find out why. I do have one bit of good news, which is that I will now be a full-time employee, so I'm very, very happy about that. I'm very excited. I will be not only doing the creatives, like the digital assets and things for whatever we need, but I will also be doing line producing for the YouTube channel for the company. So I am very happy about that. That has been a dream of mine to do in a professional way, and I'm just so excited. One of my plans with this channel was to, learn about YouTube, learn how to make videos, and maybe down the road be able to use this as a portfolio and get a job. It's actually happened, and I feel really lucky and I feel really grateful. So it might be a little hard for me in the next month trying to figure out how to balance the schedule, because I still want to do at least one video a week. So I'm gonna have to see how I can make that happen, because there is no way I'm ever letting this channel not be the best it can be, and not be extremely important to me. So, but just in case there might be like a week or something where you don't have a video or something, it's that kind of stuff, just me trying to figure out how to organize and project manage these things. So it's but I'm very excited about it. I feel really good about a lot of things, and it feels nice to feel hopeful again and to feel useful, and that I'll be expanding my career and everything. So I'm really happy about that. So thank you guys for always cheering me on and supporting me, and I want this to be a story too that, if you're working towards a dream, keep at it, keep going, keep doing it, because I really do believe, if you keep doing the thing, something has to happen, Okay, let's get to these books because I have a lot to say about them. My battery is going to die, so I want to try and do this before it does. Let's get to it. Felix is an author. He writes about the paranormal, but he doesn't really have anything that's become like a bestseller yet. But he has this great idea, which is to stay 12 nights in a rumored haunted house and document, what that was like for him as someone who's very cynical and not really a believer in ghosts at all. So he finds a house that's not very well known in the horror community. It has multiple stories of hauntings. It has a very sordid and weird history. And the house itself is in a state of abandonment. No one is living there. It is owned by someone, but no one's there. And it's been abandoned for a couple of decades or so. So it is the perfect setting, of course, for his book, and it's also the perfect subject for him. Once he irons out all of the details, he gets all of his stuff together and he heads over to the house. And one caveat that he's given himself is that he's not going to leave this house. He is going to stay in this house 24 hours a day, no matter what happens. He seems to be very excited, kind of breathless, kind of already imagining what the book will be like and what the cover will have on it, and already getting lost in the future of what this experience will be like and how it will reward him in the end. At a certain point, his friend joins him, and this is part of the plan because he's going to write this book about, a cynic and a true believer. His friend is a believer in the supernatural, about staying in this house and, how they kind of manage that together. But it's going to be a lot more than he anticipated. I can't tell you a lot about it because it's one of those stories where it is sort of important for you to go on the journey. But I will say that it was not what I was expecting at all. I definitely thought that I had figured it out multiple times, thinking, okay, if it's not this, it's not that. If it's not that, it's definitely going to be this. But it wasn't any of those things, and it was a really nice surprise. But the thing with the surprise is like, it's gonna work for some people and it's not gonna work for others. So it just depends on how you react and experience this story. The book really picks up though when his friend Thomas comes to stay with him. And it's kind of like in their conversations. So both of them are horror fan lovers, and they have like this game they play where they name a movie that has a certain theme or something. So if you're like movies with haunted houses, you name all of the movies with haunted houses, or like movies with the word black in it or something, and then they name all, you know what I mean? So they would do these games, they would talk about different films and books, and you'll recognize like a lot of them. And it was very fun to kind of just hang out with these two horror nerds who are just talking shop basically. Their relationship is very well realized, so their banter and the way they're handling each other, it feels very real. They also mentioned my favorite ghost movie, The Changeling, in here. They talk about the red ball, but they mention it in here along with tons of other movies. So just as like a horror fan, I think it's like super fun. There are a lot of events that happen in the story, and you're just like, what does that mean? Because I already had all of these ideas and notions about what I thought was gonna happen, and now this comes along, and now I'm really not sure. And so finding out the mystery of the house was really fun. And also there's this thing between Felix and Thomas, this little tiny pebble, and it's thrown around in the book for a really long time until we finally find out what it is. But it's very like titillating because you know there's something, but there, you know, he's never ever really talking about it. It wasn't necessarily like a scary story, but it did have its spooky moments. It had creepy events that happened. There were some people who told me that they hated the ending, you know, some of them loved the ending. So it's definitely gonna be a polarizing one, but I think it was really fun because when you find out what the ending is, your mind starts traveling back to all of these like little previous details that you weren't even thinking about, but you picked up when you were reading, and you're like, oh, you know? Someone did mention to me that, I think it was on Instagram, they were like, I wish that they had talked more about the history of the house in the book. Yeah, I mean, they do tell you a little bit about the history of the house, but everything they know about the house is like hearsay or a rumor or something. It's like, it's not even like exactly clear. But I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, there's also a lot of house ruin porn, you know, where if you like that type of thing, which I totally do, you know, like I love torn drapes and peeling wallpaper and paint that's just like, you know, crackling and falling off to the floor. I love all of that kind of stuff. If you don't like haunted houses, you're gonna like this. Usually when I read a book and I think it's gonna be this like traditional haunted house story and it's not, I get a little miffed, peeved, perturbed, because that's just like what I desire. But in this sense, I liked it. It was cool. It was interesting. It was also really nice to read this like haunted house story through this perspective of like a person who's a cynic, who doesn't really believe. And so they're kind of going over a lot of reasons why X, Y, and Z could be anything but supernatural. The story is about Catherine Howard, who is an antiques appraiser. She will go to people's homes, she will look over what they have, and she'll tell them what she thinks it's worth on the market. And, you know, if everything works out, then she will try to find a buyer for their stuff. Catherine gets sent out by her employer to visit with this woman at a place called the Red House. And the Red House is really special because it was the home of a very mysterious and eccentric artist in the Victorian-ish era W.H. Mason. She's really excited about this because if this all goes well, this is going to give her a lot of notoriety. And this is probably going to open the doors for her to be doing, you know, bigger and better stuff than what she's been doing previously. So once she gets to the Red House, she meets with this old woman in a wheelchair. And that might seem pretty ordinary, but this woman was far from ordinary. Her home, like herself, was trapped in the Victorian era. The home itself didn't even have any electricity. And the woman dresses herself up in these antiquated clothes, and she does her hair in this, you know, kind of Edwardian or Victorian fashion. She's very surly, she's kind of judgmental, she's not very cool to talk to whatsoever. But Catherine is like, I really want this to work out, so I'm just gonna bear it. So the meeting goes well-ish, and the woman tells her that she can come back at a later date next week, and they can start looking at some other stuff that her uncle, who is W.H. Mason, had done. But she wants Catherine to stay a few days at the Red House while they look at the stuff and appraise it. Catherine really doesn't want to stay there. She doesn't like the house, she doesn't like the woman. I mean, she's just getting bad vibes from everywhere. And the house itself is extremely unsettling, and she keeps thinking that she's seeing things in the shadows. But again, she decides to grin and bear it because she really wants this account. So when she does return to the Red House, she realizes immediately that it was a mistake. This story is so cool. The main character, Catherine, is a very complex character. She has a lot of layers to who she is, and they're really interesting. I found them to be very interesting. She had a lot of things that I kind of recognized in myself, which was sort of bizarre to me because I was like, wow, this person really sounds like me to some degree. Which kind of made me feel attacked, honestly. The woman who resides at the Red House is fantastic. Like, just one of the most creepy, eerie, weird, bizarre characters. The house itself is freaking bizarre. It's so weird. It's like this thing that Adam Nevill does where he combines weirdness with the supernatural to really be able to express something that is kind of uncanny, inexplicable, weird, you know? And so it has a lot of different elements to the story. There's like this kind of dark fantasy feel about it. There's also this very traditional kind of supernatural aspects, you know, because we have like this old woman who, you know, is stuck in the Victorian era, you know, living in this old house. I mean, this setup is like so basic, but the story is very complex and weird. It's so cool. It did have like some shades of cunning folk. I think like once you're reading a catalog of an author, like you kind of start to see stuff like that. Like cunning folk to me had this like strange, weird, bizarre feeling to it with a little bit of like absurdity and grotesqueness. And House of Small Shadows did too, but like without the humor. Like there's no humor going on here. One of the things I really, really loved is like there is a secret to Catherine's past. She has this affliction where she goes into sort of like a catatonic state. No matter where she is, she'll just like drop, and then her eyes will kind of roll back, and then she'll just sit there for hours, and you know, she'll be drooling because she's not, you know, really present, and she doesn't know why is this happening and what it means. That is a mystery among many mysteries, but there's a lot of layers to the story. So it's a haunted house story, it's a story of like a woman who's had a very traumatic past, it's a story about an artist and his work. It's also about a certain time period, you know, when this artist was working on his works at the time. It's also about art. It's also about taxidermy. It's about puppets. It's about cults. It's about altered states. One of the really cool details about the artist W.H. Mason is like the first piece of artwork that you get to see when you're in the house. So it's not really a spoiler, but he's this artist who works with taxidermy, and he makes this like tableau. It's like a triptych or something of like this scene of war, and he uses these rats, and it's like hundreds of rats, and they all have these like little handmade sewn army uniforms, and they have little rifles, and the whole scene is like in motion. So it looks like it's just a frozen moment in time. And when this is being described, and when you're sort of looking through it from Catherine's eyes, it is so cool. The art is so creepy and weird. Oh, I just loved it. It was so fun. This is like everything that I kind of want in like a creepy supernatural story. You know, there's elements of things that I've just never really come across before. It was just so good, so good. So if you like weird and creepy and bizarre and spooky like all together, you're gonna like this story. I thought it was crazy, man. It was wild. Oof, there's like a scene, there's so many scenes in there that I want to tell you about, but I really think that this would make an amazing independent horror game. I'm playing Martha is Dead right now, which is really cool. Like, I like it. It's really nice. It is a little slow though. Like, I do find myself becoming quite bored at times. It's a beautiful game though. Like, it's just beautiful to look at. I really wish that this could be a horror indie game. It would be so creepy and so good. I wish I could make it. I really don't think a film would do it justice. And I think it has to do with the experiential part of it. One thing I love about video games is just like how you get to be a part of the story in some way, you know, like because you're making some decisions and you're able to have some autonomy in some ways throughout the game, and it's something that happens to you as opposed to watching something happen to others. So that was a review for House of Small Shadows and 12 Nights at Rotterhouse. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the bottom, especially about 12 Nights at Rotterhouse. I feel like a lot of you guys have some very strong opinions, so let us know what those are. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I really do appreciate it. Like and comment if this video was useful or fun for you, and subscribe if you would like to have more videos from me. Other than that, please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.